We do this to go fast. Along the way, we meet some great friends and they become family. Then all the stories come. And my guest this week, Brock Yates Jr., has lots of stories to share. Let's throw the green flag on this episode. Well, as I mentioned, I am here with Brock Yates Jr. Lots of great stuff to cover. If you don't know Brock Yates Jr., you will by the end of this episode. So first off, Brock, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate the time.
I want to tell a story about the first time you and I spoke, but first, let's cover how you and I got connected. Fred Wolf from Nelson Ledges Road Course, Garrettsville, Ohio, reached out to me a couple weeks ago and said, I think you need to have Brock on the podcast. Let me see if he's interested. So I know you've run one lap of America at Nelson Ledges. We'll cover that later too. But how long have you known Fred?
Well, I took over one lap in 2009 from my father. And we had gone to Nelson Ledges on and off for many, many years. And I met him when we went there in the early teens, I believe, and the track was disintegrating to the point that the pieces were actually, we had an airbag fire off on one of our cars based on the bumps going down the back straight, and and I told him I'll be happy to come back when you get repaved, and sure enough, life changed, and the track changed owners, and Fred was still there, and and as soon as they were paved, I showed back up. So,
yeah, I think the last time you were there was during COVID. Is that right?
It was right after COVID.
Right after COVID. Okay. Yeah. The Nelson Ledges is about 35 minutes from my house, and I heard a couple people that I know of were going there, so I said, you know what, let me spend the morning there and see. It was great. There were some really cool cars, some really good people, a lot of camaraderie, and a lot of smiles. So thanks for coming to Northern Ohio with one lap. And the potholes and bumps are certainly gone now after the repave.
Well, of course, and now the reason I called him the other day was because Pit Race had closed. And I told him to get that track upgraded so he could take all that business.
Yeah. Their phone's been ringing off the hook, no doubt.
I'm sure I wasn't the first, but I wasn't the last either.
Yeah. Will you be heading there with one lap?
Not next year, but I will be back.
Okay.
Now that there's a big hole in the northeast that I need to fill.
Sure.
Nelson Ledges makes a lot more sense. It also, being longtime friends with Fred, it gives me an options that other tracks won't.
Sure.
For that.
So I want to tell the listeners, and you haven't heard the story yet. So after Fred connected us, Fred is very persistent. So when he gives me someone's name or I agree to do something with Fred, I know he's going to follow up. He's going to follow up quickly. So I'm like, listen, I got to get a hold of Brock sooner than later so I could tell Fred, listen, yes, we connected. So I called you in the afternoon. I was driving to another meeting, and it's one of those days, one of those business days, a little frustrations, little challenges. You and I had a great conversation. You had me laughing. You had a big smile on my face. I think we probably only talked for 4 minutes, 5 minutes max. But I wanted to pass that along to you, that that conversation, your laugh, your humor, certainly put a smile on my face that day.
Well, I'm sorry your life is so boring that I put a smile on your face, but or wretched or whatever. No, I try to bring a little humor into everything. It just seems to, if I can make somebody smile during the day or, say something really silly, I'm okay with that.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your history. I refer to you as Brock Yates Jr. because everyone's going to make the connection to your father. Was it your dad that really got you into cars and auto racing, or were there other influences along with his?
Well, obviously, growing up in a family that we were racing. I was at Watkins Glen at 3 years old. and basically grew up there through the 60s. And my father raced Sadlers and Tarashis and Dodge Charger or Darts and Launches, and then he had a short-term Trans Am career. And but Watkins Glen was, that was part of my being for for most of my growing up. And then the house was always, the driveway was always filled full of cars, both fun, utilitarian, stupid, ugly, awful. But there was always something fun. And also the friends he had was the golden age of car driver. Charlie Fox and Steve Smith, Warren Weath, Terry Cook. I mean, the Pete Byro, the great names of the late '60s, early '70s car magazines, and that was impossible not to enjoy and take advantage of. I have to admit that when I went off to college, my father and I remained close, but I did get away from cars, and I think that was partly because, I can't write, but also, it's a separation from my father, who is incredibly famous, and a certain amount of rebellion. But it was hard to stay away. He would drop by college with a stupid car and say, "You want to go drive for a while?" And I got to drive the first turbo Carrera when it came out, which was stupidly fast for the period.
Boy.
And it's not many kids that father shows up in a 928 and said, "Let's go for a ride."
No.
No, and that was it, and that persisted until one day I got in a car and I with a girlfriend and moved to California, and he was good enough to get me a job at the Portofino Inn in Redondo Beach, which is, for those that don't know, the ending point for the Cannonballs in the 70s. So I was immersed in the car culture there, with the great drivers would show up there, all the sprint car guys from Ascot, the Long Beach Grand Prix, Mario and Rick Mears and Roger Ward and people like that would stay there. Not to mention the car culture that was all around Torrance and Redondo Beach in those days. Saab, Toyota, Volvo, all those people, Honda, became my friends, and it's hard. I never really left the car periphery.
No. So we don't want to. I'm not going to go into huge detail about the Cannonball. You've talked about that quite a bit. You've been interviewed about it quite a bit, written about it or been written about. But it was the Cannonball that led to the One Lap of America, and there were some concerns with safety and insurance and things like that. How involved were you in those early days of One Lap of America?
I was not involved in the management. I was involved as the first one was '84, and I, as I mentioned, I was working at the Portofino Inn, and one of the stopovers was there, and Mary Davis, the then owner of the Portofino, was one ballsy lady, and she decided her niece needed to enter the One Lap. Bob Sinclair, the North American president of Saab, offered her a car, and and Mary looked over and said, "Okay, Patricia, you need a co-driver. Nobody in the building knows how to drive except Brock." So,
when the boss says you got to drive, right?
So, much to the chagrin of my then girlfriend, yes, I got in the car, and we, and because of my name, every time they couldn't find the real Brock Yates, I would get a phone call. So I was inexorably linked to the management from the very beginning, even though I had nothing to do with it.
Guilty by name association. I'm a junior as well. I can relate.
It never ends. But anyway, I ran most of the one laps, and towards around 96 or something like that, I started to take part in the organization. Yeah, slowly took over.
In those early days, I mean, you didn't have GPS, you didn't have cell phones, you had paper, you had maps, you had payphones, right? How do you get to the next point? I mean, you knew where you were going, but how'd you map that out?
Well, we would be issued a route book. In '84, the route was actually pretty stupid. The first page of the route book said, from Darien, Connecticut, go to Boston, turn left, go to Seattle, turn left, go to San Diego, turn left, go to Miami, turn left, and return to start. Which was essentially what we did.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's what we did. It's not essentially what we did.
You did it.
But there was a preferred, well, no, there was a route that we were supposed to follow. Because the premise, however stupid is at that point, was to finish the event the closest to Brock's mileage as you could. Which made no sense because, first of all, everybody's got a different car. And most of us spent like 4 or 5 days trying to get a speedometer error that would somehow fix our mileages. And then you figured out, let's see, where did Brock get gas? Where did he turn the odometer off? How many passes per mile did he make? You know, it just, started going on and on. So the more we drove, we had way too much fun driving. I mean, everybody should circumnavigate the country for shits and giggles for one reason or another. But it basically was a giant crapshoot and a staged cannonball at the same time. We'd drive to a checkpoint. We'd all wait, hours and hours early for the checkpoint because we'd all made great time. And
following local laws and regulations, I'm sure.
We broke nothing. No, they're all arbitrary.
Let's talk about that first experience in the Saab. How did you do in that one?
We did really well. Well, again, because it's the winner was essentially chosen arbitrarily by a random odometer reading, won by 4 guys in a station wagon from Vermont. It really didn't matter so much as it was fun. Got to see parts of the country that I'd never been to. The vastness of North Dakota, the emptiness of Texas, all those great places.
Sure.
But it was other than my co-driver had never driven a 5-speed before, and the Saab, Bob Sinclair had decided that we should all be able to sleep in our cars. So he had the rear fold-down seat cut in a 60-40 configuration. So he could put a mattress on the 40% side. So we all could sleep in the back, which, by the way, was the first time it was ever done, and now we take it for granted that split seats are the norm.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I remember waking up on I was exhausted when we finally got on the road. And I remember waking up in the middle of nowhere and say, Pat, shift into 5th. And I must have done that about 14 times.
My God.
I mean, it was just, but no, the Saab, I mean, the Saabs are absolutely lovely cars for, were lovely cars for almost any situation. They would run really quickly. They're very safe, handle very well. No, I loved them.
And when you got back to California, still had the job, still had the girlfriend?
There's actually the LA Times has a picture of the two of us embracing at the halfway point, like I had just come back from a 6-month Arctic adventure.
Oh, no kidding.
She was a little bit jealous.
Oh.
Yeah. But it was, yes, I still had the job and the girlfriend. And actually, I worked there 4 more years until I got thrown out for different reasons.
Gotcha. We'll save that for another episode. Well, let's talk about what One Lap of America is today. It's autocross, drag race, and time trial?
It's whatever I can fit in a week.
Gotcha.
In the early days, the SCCA was involved, and they were very hesitant about letting us actually go over like 45 miles an hour because we were street cars.
Yeah.
And this is the story I tell most often, but at Hallett in '89, Tolley, Artunoff, and Brock decided that this is all bullshit and we should run these cars. So we had our first SCCA point-to-point time trial. Nobody died, and everybody had a great time. And that allowed us to find another sanctioning body that allowed us to have more fun, the SPRA. But it also allowed us to expand the 1 lap point-to-point to a 2 lap and then 3 lap format that we're in now. So we will visit in the course of a week several road courses. We will do a drag strip, providing it doesn't rain, both for low ET and bracket racing. And bracket racing is we don't score heavily, but it's part of the sport, sport with automobiles that most people aren't comfortable with, don't understand, and it makes it more fun because it's more of a crapshoot. But at the same time, there's used to be 600 drag strips around the country, and every one of them we're running bracket racing.
Yeah.
And next year, if I can get a little racetrack in Wisconsin to say yes, actually the township to say yes, we'll be running an oval.
Oh.
And our favorite was running the dirt ovals, but the clean car crowd gets crazy. Yeah.
What for the listener that doesn't know, what type of cars, when you go to a 1 lap event, what type of cars are they going to see?
They're going to see most everything. So far for next year, we've got GT3 RSs, we've got Vipers, and we've got Corvettes, of course. We've got a bunch of Camaros, maybe a Dodge or two. We've got a K5 Blazer. We've got a Plaid, a Tesla Plaid that is vying for the overall spot for the last 3 or 4 years. It's 1,100 horsepower with giant tires and aero and everything else. We'll have maybe a Hyundai electric car. We'll have whatever people think is fast, whatever it fits into a class. Fast cars, slow cars, good drivers, bad drivers, but mostly a lot of people having fun.
Yeah, when I attended the one at Nelson Ledges a couple of years ago, there was an MGB that was prepped and was just having a blast on track. It was a chilly...
Prepped? It had a 302 in it.
Yeah, it was, as I remember, it was a chilly morning, and oh my gosh, that just had my attention the entire morning.
Oh, I mean, it was a death trap, but it was so fast, and he had so much fun, and it was, just off the wall, which, is one of the things that I really appreciate about One Lap is the imagination that you're allowed since we have no rules.
So,
I mean, the cars, the classing of the cars based it on what it started life as.
And then you can just take it up from there, whatever your budget will allow.
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
No kidding. And is it, am I remembering this correctly, no support vehicles, no trailers?
No, you can have trailers if your clutch can handle it.
Yeah.
You're allowed 1 set of tires and no support vehicles.
Gotcha.
I mean, obviously, you can get help along the way, but if we find out that help has been shadowing you for 3 days, we're going to be really upset.
Right. Why is that F-150 keep showing up to every event and just parking off in the distance, right?
We have had that situation happen.
Yeah. And as I recall, the tires get stamped from Tire Rack.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to.
All the tires have to be sourced from Tire Rack, stamped at at their distribution centers, and have to be within 2 years of the manufacturing date.
Gotcha.
So they, what we're worried about is obviously old tires are unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not people understand that or not is something else. But as tires age, they dry out, the volatiles go away. Not only do they get harder, but they get more brittle.
Sure. And then how do people sign up for this? It's just not like anyone. I mean, there's a limit. There's a waiting list. How does that happen?
There's a wait list.
Yeah.
Well, we've been blessed with a lot of recidivism, some good coverage, a friendly atmosphere, a good event, and somebody that runs it that stands back and lets it happen. And I've got a great crew that make it happen, and I just kind of there's a picture of me somewhere. I think it's in Hemmings of me just sitting on a chair. Watching everything going by, and no, it wasn't Hemmings. It was Haggerty. Just not doing anything, which is the way it should be.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, I just had a question I wanted to ask. Oh yeah. Okay, so I love the aspect of funny things that happen, unforeseen things that happen at events. So I have a couple of questions along those lines. So over the years that you've been running One Lap of America, what seems to be the thing a competitor forgets?
The thing that bothers me most that they forget is it's an 8-day rally. And you have to finish to win. And we'll have the overzealous that will decide that they're going to win the event on the first day or one of the other days, and it usually doesn't go well. As far as what they forget, typically it's like tarps and things when it rains. They forget the fact that rain has less traction. Let's see, perhaps it. The other thing they forget is that, yes, rain happens, and perhaps they should choose their tires accordingly. But no, I think there's so much knowledge and willing to share through the event, through the veterans, and there's no stupid questions, that people, if anything, tend to over prepare and bring too much stuff. And I suggest to people that they only should bring what they're qualified to use.
Yeah.
Which in my case is a hammer, tie wraps, and duct tape.
There you go. And then keep in mind this, I'll call this a family show. What's the oddest thing that has happened during One Lap? Something that you're like, oh, I didn't think we'd have to deal with this.
Oh, God. I know that I've shaken my head a lot of times. As far as, little things like having to stop the event to go rescue an endangered turtle at the Corvette Museum racetrack.
No kidding.
I've been guilty of most infractions and most stupid things. Photographers dumb enough to stand out in impact zones. Of course, I taught him a lesson by driving at him off the racetrack as if I'd gone off the track and cured that from him. I don't know. Just like any other racing series, we've had, things break that, you wonder about it and things happen. But I think the thing that most surprises me every year is the amount of sportsmanship and the way we can get away from everything for a week.
Yeah. That's got to be a blast. What is it, like 1,400 miles or 20?
Oh, typically around 3,500 miles.
3,500. Oh, I was way off. What a blast to be away, hopefully away from the work, away from the responsibilities, having fun with other car people, pushing the limits. That's got to be
Well, it's also away from the politics and the bullshit and the things that normally divide us are no longer a part of the week.
right.
And you'll have incredibly wealthy and people scraping by and cars, stupidly fast cars and great drivers and awful drivers, and everybody's kind of collected and enjoying it. And there's sharing and there's smiles and there's hugs and there's that was my big fear during COVID. I did open it up, in 2001. We only canceled 1 year. My big fear that was we were going to just move like a cruise ship through the country and just share COVID everywhere. And I was pretty serious about the masking and distancing, and we didn't have any problem that year at all. The next year, because I dropped all the requirements, we had all the problems because everybody's shaking hands and everybody no, it's just it's an incredibly supportive, friendly family. I'm not trying to elicit any kind of sympathy or anything, but my wife died 3 years ago.
I'm sorry.
Of cancer, and make sure everybody get your cancer tests. But anyway, obviously I was devastated, and I went to one lap, and it was a renewal because there was all my once a year family and friends to support and be there, and I think most people that have had a loss feel the same way when they come back to one lap, because it's incredibly supportive and it's true remarkable friendships.
Yeah, there's nothing like the track family, right?
No, there isn't.
Yeah, and I really hope more people that want to get closer to our sport come to realize that, how much love and support, friendship, that unconditional.
Yeah, unconditional, and all you got to do is not put stuff on the game. I'm sorry, your family show.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll put a warning out there. You're good. Before we move on to some other stuff, let's wrap up one lap discussion. Folks can search the web, learn about one lap. When does it start for 2026?
We'll start in South Bend on May 2nd. And I haven't released the route yet, but suffice it to say, we'll go around 3,500 miles, and we end up back up in South Bend on the 9th.
And that's at Tire Rack's headquarters, right?
Right.
Yeah, very cool.
And they're remarkably supportive of the event for now, 25 years, I guess. Jesus.
That's great. Again, before we move on, anything that we didn't talk about one lap you think the listener would want to know?
No, show up, bring what you the biggest misconception people think is they can come to win one lap. It's a little bit more difficult than that. Mm-hmm. It takes a great deal of self-control. Yes, it takes horsepower, but it doesn't take a lot of horsepower. It takes more of a better driver. We had a Cayman win it last year, and a relatively stock one, because the drivers were good, they were smooth, they made no mistakes. And just dumping a ton of horsepower in a car doesn't make it fast.
No, not at all. Not if you can't control it. Let's talk about, because you're doing driver coaching now, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I've heard you quoted as saying, look where you want to go. And I love that, because my very first track day was at Nelson Ledges before the repave. So there was the pothole over in the carousel. But I had a right seat coach, and I can still remember him telling me as I'm trying to apex a turn. I was on run flat tires. That's how new I was to track days and everything.
It doesn't matter.
That's right. That's a big thing too. Just show up. Just go do it. And that was his advice. He says, just look where you want to go, and it'll start to smooth out. Everything will start to come together. you've said those words. Why do you believe that's really important for someone who's driving on track?
Well, no, it's not just driving on track. I stopped driver coaching, sitting second seat on a racetrack when the cars got too fast and the drivers got stupid. So, you go out and buy yourself a stupidly fast car and show up on your first track day and say, "Teach me how to drive." The old days, all cars were slow, and it wasn't death at every corner, death opportunity at every corner. I now teach for corporate driving school that teaches the same thing, because whether on the track or on the highways, if you look there, you'll go there. If your eyes are high and you're looking to where you want to end up, everything becomes available. Not only do you see your lines, but you see everything around you. You're much more aware. And as you look down, and people can try this at home, look down in front of you and try to see beyond that. And you can't, because your peripheral vision only works down. So if your eyes are up, you can see everything between where you are and the horizon. So it's an easy check to see where your eyes are. If you're driving down a highway and your hands are motionless or relatively Spartan in their movement, you're looking far ahead. You're making constant corrections. It's probably because you know the license plate of the car in front of you. And I was lucky. I was invited out to California for a Hemmings Motor Rally, and we had 3 days of just lovely roads through South Central California, places I'd never been. Starting thankfully in the near San Francisco in the Redwood Forest, but somebody asked, what I was getting most out of it, and I said, well, it's an opportunity for me to practice on my eyes, because, we get lazy and we forget about where we're supposed to look. And when you look, you'll see through the corners. You'll see far ahead. Everything will smooth out, and you'll be faster and safer.
Oh, absolutely. The listener of the Late to Grid podcast, they're somewhere along their motorsports journey, either starting out or doing some amateur racing, but they all have one goal, and that's to get better on track, whether that's autocross, time attack, wheel to wheel. So from a coaching perspective, what advice do you have to folks as they get additional seat time? And I always say seat time is great, but you need seat time with instruction, seat time with coaching, seat time with feedback. What advice do you have for the listener about making sure they're getting the most of their seat time?
Start with a slow car. Because in a fast car, you're never going to approach 10/10ths comfortably. And usually when you do, it's going to be really expensive. A slow car you can thrash, beat up, be at the limits of adhesion at relatively modest speeds. Most people start out with too fast a car, and the learning curve is steep and expensive. That said, your eyes, like I mentioned, are the key to driving. They have to be up. They have to be looking as far ahead as possible. And with that, that'll give you the opportunity to be smooth. Most people have trouble with heel and toe. Most people have trouble with smooth brake and throttle applications. Choppy steering. Everything that you do to upset the balance of the car slows you down. So everything should be done, like my first instructor said, like eggs behind the pedals.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And you have to study a racetrack. You don't attack it. You drive up to it, and there's certain corners in racing that everybody should experience. Turn 9 at Willow Springs is one of them, because it's an incredibly late apex and stupidly fast. Once you see that, then they all become second nature. But you really tr- have to force your eyes around and see the whole picture. And the thing I think about racing, and I was never particularly good. I was one of those guys that languished at the back, and everybody looked at the the results and said I beat him too.
Yeah.
And, I was okay with that. I had fun.
That's it. That's the key. You had fun.
Yeah, and that's I never set any records, but yeah, I also at the same time relished the rain. I waited for the rain.
Why is that?
Because I was smooth.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean every shift I made was matched. Everything I did was the input was gentle, not slow. It was firm, but not abrupt, and which made me naturally faster in the rain.
Oh, that's good advice right there, folks. So if you're running in the rain or slippery conditions, Brock, smooth is fast, right?
Right.
There you go.
Your smooth gives the tires time to react to what you're asking them to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you are abrupt with the steering wheel, you can initiate your own skid.
Sure.
That typically doesn't work well on a racetrack, let alone on the public highways.
Yeah. How often do you get behind the wheel anymore?
Not very often anymore. I mean, I drive every day. My cars are slow and fun. I always try to be smoother and shifting without a clutch and practicing stuff that nobody does anymore.
All right. I think I know the question to this, the answer to this next question. What is your favorite car to drive?
My answers tend to be a bit about a step. First of all, it's whatever I'm in. I don't care. Like I mentioned, I was out for the Hemmings Motorsport or Motor Club amongst these Porsches and Audis and BMWs and Mercedes, and I'm in a Hyundai Elantra.
Yeah.
Did I have fun? Oh,
I bet you did.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Was it a base?
It's not what you drive, it's how you drive it, is I believe AJ41 said.
Yes. Was that a base Elantra or Elantra N?
It was just a base rental.
Oh, even better.
It was awful. I am of the opinion that an enthusiast, somebody that enjoys driving,
Mm-hmm.
is always frustrated in a fast car.
Why is that?
Okay, because you drive it in the highways. You can't run quickly.
No.
I mean, without seriously jeopardizing your license or everybody else around you.
Yes.
And I think the ideal car for an enthusiast in an environment where there's a lot of traffic is something slow with shitty tires.
There you go.
A little Fiat, a 500 with 175 tires and a 6-speed would be kind of the ideal. Let's go have fun and at really slow speeds.
Uh-huh.
Because every corner would be treacherous.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're holding on. You're doing everything.
yeah, exactly. You're going to learn to do torque steer and pulling yourself out of corners and everything else really quickly. We're not. No, I have an old Mini Cooper Works.
See, that's what I thought you were going to say your favorite car was, because it's an R53, right?
Yeah.
What do you?
Yeah, and we had a 2002 S, and somebody turned left in front of me after a couple of years ago, and a friend of mine had a 2003 Works that we replaced it with, and it's really the ideal car for what I think anyway. Carries people, has fun. It unlike the newer ones, it's not cushy and big and soft and with self-matching revs and all that other stuff.
Yeah. So that first car I had on track I talked about earlier was a 05 R53, and we ended up, I love that car. Traded it for a lifted Wrangler for my daughter. But you're right. It's a perfect car. It's great for running around. There's more cargo room than you think. When she raced go-karts, my oldest daughter, we would stuff that thing full of everything. We put a trailer hitch on it. We would tow her cart for a while. I got to tell you, every so often I'll rummage around the internet looking for a clean, that generation to find.
I like I'm a firm believer the first generation, or well, the really the second gen, the 53s with the supercharger are the best years.
I agree,
because there was no cushy ride. You were driving the car. You could feel all the bumps, and it had if you turned off, you had to turn off the traction control,
Yes.
otherwise you'd burn out the rear brakes in a matter of a minute. But it had enough trailing throttle oversteer that it was quite neutral.
It was great handling, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now that we've talked about it, I'll probably be looking at him again tonight.
The one I bought from my friend, he didn't know it, but it turned out to be a flood car.
Oh,
And I haven't researched the title. I don't know which state it came out of, but I was having some starting issues, and I lifted up the back carpet where the battery is for the first time, and it was all kind of a silty brown.
yeah. That's
I don't care. I really don't care.
yeah. If it runs and puts a smile on your face, keep rolling with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk about advice for a moment or two. What's the best motorsports advice someone has shared with you?
Well, I have to say that the eyes up part is probably the thing that changed my driving the most.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought I was pretty good up until that point. I mean, I'd done stupid things with cars my entire life, and somehow lived through it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure at some point I was doing that, but when it became part of my conscious driving, I became better.
Right.
Even my father, who's a very good driver, said just kind of look out, keep your eyes moving. But that wasn't really what I needed to know.
Mm-hmm. And other than that piece of advice, look where you want to go. What advice do you like to give to people about maybe it's one lap or getting better on track or getting better at driving in general?
Well, like I mentioned early on, it's track time.
Okay.
There's no question about it. But you have to understand the dynamics of the car. You have to understand what it's telling you. I had a friend of mine show up several years in one lap in a stupidly fast GTR.
Mm.
Which is not, the joke is they're self-driving. They're not, but you still have to steer. But sort of. But at the same time, he was way too exciting out there, even in a car that's remarkably easy to drive. And I looked at him and I said, Bob, you're going to kill yourself. And you really need to get to the basics. You need to get something slow. You need to feel the tires. You need to understand when that tire's slipping, what that means. What to do when the car starts to move. You can't always rely on that little yellow light coming up and telling you what's going that saved your life again.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he got himself a 240 SX and went and raced and had some fun. And he came back a far better driver.
Sure. Yeah, you really do learn a lot on those, we'll just call them slower cars. That's not being, an insult to those cars. But
No, it's just, again, you're much more comfortable about stuffing him into a corner.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and learning.
I mean, my favorite day teaching was the rain at New Jersey, and nobody would go out because it's raining. And a guy brought instead of his neon SRT4 with 800 horsepower, he brought his little Dodge Shadow. It was a base Shadow.
Yeah.
And we had so much fun because even when he went off, it went off like 10 feet.
Mm.
I mean, we got to see, what kind of inputs did what, if you overcook a corner, this is what happens. If you don't turn your head, this was what happened. And it was fabulous. The only downside was we were just coming out of the front straight, wheezing as best we can, maybe approaching 80 miles an hour. And he looks in the rearview mirror and he says, "Oh shit!" And I said, "Okay, what?" And I look in my little mirror and I see a new gen GTO spinning, catching us.
Not what you want to see.
But anyway, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So you brought up a great point, and this is something that I think the listeners need to know. So if you've got a track day or a test day scheduled, and the forecast changes and it's raining, you still need to go for a couple reasons. That's great practice, great seat time in the wet. You learn a lot about your car. One thing I heard recently from a driver is, "I don't know the wet line." And there was feedback at an event they were just at. "I don't know how to drive the wet line." Well, why not learn during a practice day? And other people are staying home. They're not showing up.
Yeah.
You got more track time. You've got more safety with less cars on track.
Not only that, I think the lesson is lost on people is that rain just means there's less traction. So whatever inadequacies you have in smoothness or in weight transfer are only going to be exacerbated or more recognizable in the wet.
True, very true.
Okay, so if you're abrupt in the dry, and because you're nowhere near the limits of adhesion, even though you think you're going really fast, the car can save you. When you do that in the wet, you don't have that luxury.
That's great advice. Well, we are coming up towards the end of the show, Brock. A couple last questions. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you wish we would have covered?
It's your show. I mean, it's tire rack and grassroots motorsports and all the other things. But no, I'm good. I'm not going to stand up and say really dumb stuff. But go ahead.
Oh, you're great. Couple quick questions. Will you be at PRI this year?
I went to PRI for years and found out that I never made any connections that really benefited me. However, I got to see a lot of friends.
Good, yeah.
And sadly, as I age, most of my friends did too.
Yeah. Amazing how that happens.
So, no, I don't walk as far these days. I don't want to walk as far, and it's more of a social time. And also, Indianapolis is not my favorite place in the wintertime.
Yeah, it can be rough for sure. Two more questions. What's next for Brock Yates Jr.?
Well, we're going to experiment and run a West Coast one lap next year. And we tried it this year, but we didn't have enough lead time. And so we're going to do a Western version, starting and finishing in Vegas, a 5-day event. And because there's some great tracks out there.
Mm-hmm.
And based on years ago, for one lap, we would drive 750,000 miles in a night and show up at another racetrack. And most people these days don't think that's a good idea.
Mm-mm.
And not that I blame them, but at the same time, it kind of takes the fun out of leaving. We had the best route the best transit we ever had was we left Pikes Peak International in the afternoon and ended up driving over the Rocky Mountains into Utah for a gorgeous sunset, a full moon leading us across Nevada, and a sunrise at the Donner Pass so we could run Sears Point the next day.
Unbelievable.
And in the modern format, and the whiny people, we don't do that anymore.
Oh.
And so it's months. But anyway, Willow and Button Willow and Sears Point and Laguna Seca are tracks that we'd love to get to.
Oh,
And that's the plan for the fall of next year.
yeah, I think that's awesome. We're going to keep tabs on that for sure. So I've got one more question for you. Have you ever been late to grid?
Me?
No?
No.
If
I don't think so. I mean,
so at one lap,
no, my biggest problem was when I did race badly, that I was racing the SCCA show and stock neon. And I would fall asleep listening to the radio on grid.
Oh. Did someone stick their hand through the window net and shake you a little, wake you up?
My wife was she was an SCCA flagger, and it made her crazy that I would do that.
Oh my gosh!
And, I was never really stressed about it. I mean, I would anxious. I wasn't even anxious. I mean, going out and having fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done proving stuff to anybody.
That's right. Well, Brock, it's been great to have you on the Late to Grid podcast. Thanks for sharing your journey, a little bit more about your background, and giving us a little tidbit or a little outlook on what's going to happen with the Western One Lap of America. Thanks again for being here.
Well, Bill, thank you for having me, and I hope we didn't bore the people too much to tears.
Folks, are you still listening? You sleeping?
Everybody wake up.